What if I told you that, like, scrolling through your phone in bed right now is actually impairing your cognitive function to the exact same degree as driving drunk?
Yeah, that's a wild stat.
Right. Or what if I said that the physical strength of your big toe is a better predictor of how long you're going to live than, your core strength or how much you can bench press?
I mean, it sounds totally absurd on the surface, but when you really look at the biological mechanisms behind those facts, it completely changes how you think about aging.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because when it comes to longevity, we constantly get handed this frustratingly simplistic advice, right? Like, eat less, move more.
Right, the classic formula.
Exactly, as if human biology is just a basic math equation. So today, we are throwing that generic advice out the window. We're taking a deep dive into a brilliant stack of research called the Longevity Blueprint: 8 Pillars of Cellular Resilience.
Such a great framework.
It really is. And our mission today for you listening is to bypass the broad strokes and look at these highly specific, biologically profound micro habits that actually rewrite our health at the cellular level.
And, what makes this source material so compelling is that it looks at longevity as a holistic, interconnected system.
Yeah.
Because you can't just put premium fuel into a car if the engine wiring is all chewed up or, the structural frame is rusting out.
Which is exactly why we aren't starting with what goes on your dinner plate. We are starting with what happens after dinner.
Right, the foundation.
Yes, the mind, the bedroom, and how we sleep. Because before we could even talk about hacking your metabolism, we have to look at how our modern routines are just actively sabotaging our most fundamental recovery system. And surprisingly, the research says the sabotage often starts with the timing of our food.
Oh, absolutely. Dr. Marie-Pierre Saint-Onge's metabolic chamber studies are, they're incredibly illuminating here.
Wait, metabolic chambers?
Yeah.
That sounds intense. Yeah, they're these highly controlled environments where they measure every single ounce of energy a person expends and every brainwave while they sleep.
Oh, wow. So they track everything.
Everything. And what she found was that we need to radically shift the bulk of our calories to the first 2/3 of the day.
And the consequences of not doing that are kind of terrifying for your sleep architecture, honestly. Like, the data shows that if you eat a dinner high in saturated fats and simple sugars, you take 70% longer to fall asleep.
70%. It's massive.
And worse, it reduces your deep, restorative, slow-wave sleep by 20%. I read that and immediately thought about the simple sugars causing what the researchers call microarousals.
Yes, the microarousals are the key issue.
It's like, think of it like leaving heavy background apps running on your phone, You lock the screen, the phone looks dark, you think it's resting.
Right.
But those apps are pinging towers, downloading updates, and just draining the battery all night.
That is the perfect way to visualize it. You're having these microarousals, your sleep architecture is getting shredded, and you don't even fully wake up to realize your brain is basically buffering all night long.
Exactly. Because your brain is trying to shut down, but your digestive system is frantically processing a spike in glucose. And biologically, this late-night processing completely disrupts your fat oxidation.
Just from the timing.
Yeah. Saint-Onge found that delaying your eating window by just 4 hours, so say shifting your meals to noon through 10 p.m. instead of 8 a.m. through 6 p.m., it markedly worsens your body's ability to burn fat.
Wait. Just changing the clock, not the calories at all.
Just the clock. Same exact food. And when you compound that poor sleep over time, it physically alters your hormones.
Oh, right, the hunger hormones.
Exactly. It increases ghrelin, which is the hunger hormone, particularly in men, and it decreases GLP-1, the satiety hormone, in women. So you are literally waking up hormonally primed to overeat and store fat.
Jeez. Well, if the food timing is the background app draining the battery, the physical smartphone in the bedroom is like taking a sledgehammer to the motherboard.
Oh, for sure.
The blueprint calls for a strict, uncompromising ban on phones in the bedroom. And they quote authors like Arthur Brooks and Andrew Yang, who refer to our devices as godlike technology.
What's fascinating here is that it's such an apt description. I mean, the human brain simply has not evolved to handle the sheer volume of stimuli and, frankly, the dopamine manipulation that these devices output.
Right. Andrew Yang's story in the sources really struck me. He struggled with severe reactive phone addiction, like he was blowing through his data caps, experiencing wild mood swings just from scrolling algorithmic feeds.
It's so common now.
It really is.
Oh.
But the most insidious part of the research wasn't even about active scrolling. It's that just knowing the phone is in the room, like even if it's face down on the nightstand, creates a state of subconscious vigilance.
Yes. Your brain remains on high alert. It's constantly anticipating the next dopamine hit, the phantom vibration, the morning emails.
Always waiting for something.
Exactly. And that low-level continuous vigilance completely blocks your nervous system from dropping into the parasympathetic state, which is what's required for deep sleep.
And then we get to the daytime hangover from that vigilance. You mentioned the cognitive impairment earlier.
Right, the drink driving stat.
Yes. MIT, Oxford, and Carnegie Mellon collaborated on research showing that this constant smartphone checking, this sort of subconscious pattern switching, it impairs your cognitive function to a degree equivalent to a drunk driver.
Which is terrifying when you think about it.
It is. I mean, you wouldn't show up to a meeting or have a serious conversation with your kids intellectually intoxicated, but that is basically what we are doing to ourselves.
Because the brain has to constantly reorient itself. It stunts memory retention and problem-solving skills because you just never achieve deep work or deep rest. You are perpetually hovering in this shallow, fragmented state of attention.
So Andrew Yang's solution was shockingly simple. He just replaced his phone with a physical paperback book before bed.
Love that.
And the source makes a very practical recommendation for you listening. Go buy a basic $12 single-function digital alarm clock. Just keep the godlike technology out of the room where your brain physically cleanses itself.
It is arguably the highest return on investment you can make for your biology. $12 to immediately drop your baseline anxiety and restore your sleep architecture.
Exactly. So we get the foundation stabilized, right? We fix the sleep, we kick the tech out of the bedroom. Now we have to look at the metabolic engine. The blueprint shifts focus here to reveal that how we cycle our calories and the exact types of food we eat literally rewrite our biological clocks.
Yeah, this is where we move from just preservation to active rejuvenation.
Let's talk about the protocol from Dr. Bill Campbell and J.J. Virgin, which focuses on a 5-day caloric cycling method.
This is such a smart approach.
It really is. They advocate for a 20 to 25% caloric deficit for 5 days a week, and then, and this is the kicker, eating at your normal maintenance level for the other 2 days.
Right, giving the body a break.
All while keeping protein intake aggressively high, around 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of target body weight. J.J. Virgin used this exact protocol on her 58-year-old husband, and the guy dropped 27 pounds of fat and gained 24 pounds of muscle.
Which is incredible. Achieving body recomposition like that, losing fat while simultaneously adding lean tissue, is notoriously difficult, especially as we age and our hormonal profiles shift.
But I have to play skeptic for a second because, the fitness industry constantly changes its mind. Here's where it gets really interesting. But wait, doesn't constantly cutting calories just ruin your resting metabolic rate over time? Like if I'm in a deficit 5 days a week, doesn't my body just assume there's a famine and slow down the furnace?
Well, that is the exact trap of traditional chronic dieting. And that is precisely why the cycling aspect is the linchpin of this protocol.
The 2 days at maintenance.
Right. By purposefully bringing your calories back up to maintenance for those 2 days, you are actively preventing metabolic adaptation. Your thyroid and your hormones don't get that sustained signal that you are starving, so the furnace stays hot. And the high protein keeps the furnace working overtime, right? Because of the thermic effect of food.
Yes, exactly.
I've always heard protein is good for muscle repair, but the source material says it actively burns calories just by sitting in your digestive tract.
It does, because protein molecules are bound by these complex nitrogen bonds that are incredibly energy intensive for the body to break apart.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so up to 25% of the calories contained in the protein you eat are burned exclusively through the physical process of digestion. You are expending energy just to absorb it. Furthermore, that protein supports muscle protein synthesis.
The metabolic spanks.
Exactly. The source's term, metabolic spanks. Muscle tissue acts as a glucose sponge. The more muscle you have, the more places your body has to store carbohydrates, which dramatically improves your insulin sensitivity and keeps your blood sugar totally stable.
Okay, so we are keeping the metabolic furnace burning hot. But how do we stop the cellular machinery from rusting out as time goes by? That brings us to Dr. Steve Horvath and the concept of epigenetic aging.
Horvath's work is revolutionary because he developed the Grimmage clock, which doesn't measure how many birthdays you've had, but rather measures aging at the DNA methylation level. It is a terrifyingly accurate predictor of all-cause mortality.
Hold on, let's pause there. DNA methylation sounds like a very dense textbook term. If I'm picturing my DNA as like a twisted ladder, what is actually happening to the strand?
Think of your DNA as the hardware of a computer. It's fixed, right?
Yeah.
You are born with it. Epigenetics, and specifically DNA methylation, is the software.
Okay, software.
It's the code that tells the hardware what to do, which genes to turn on, which to turn off. Over time, oxidative stress, pollution, bad diet, they cause bugs in that software.
Oh, I see.
The DNA ladder gets tagged with chemical markers that silence the good genes and activate the aging genes. That is methylation.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So Horvath measures these software bugs, and his statistics are just staggering. Smoking obviously accelerates your biological aging. It has a correlation of 0.4.
Right, no surprise there.
And general exercise, which is great for you, only slows down your aging by negative 0.1. But massive vegetable intake, that decelerates your biological aging by a massive negative 0.3. It blows exercise completely out of the water.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanism here is just fascinating. The carotenoids found in vegetables, the pigments that make carrots orange and kale dark green, they act as a chemical memory of positive stressors on your epigenome.
The chemical memory?
Yeah, they circulate in the blood and actively buffer the oxidative stress. They are essentially antivirus software, counteracting the accumulation of damage and preventing those bad methylation tags from attaching to your DNA.
Wow. And the data was so overwhelming that Dr. Horvath, the guy who literally invented the clock and analyzed 3,000 women to prove this, he was completely stunned. He overhauled his own personal diet to eat a massive volume of vegetables every single day because he realized it mathematically drove basic exercise when it came to epigenetic aging.
Right. It represents a substantially lower instantaneous hazard of dying in any given year. I mean, you are altering the physical expression of your genetic code with every bite of broccoli.
But there is a huge caveat here. You could be eating a mountain of vegetables, perfectly cycling your protein, getting your sleep dialed in,
Yeah.
but none of it matters if your body isn't actually primed to absorb those nutrients.
The delivery system has to work.
Yes, and this blew my mind. The blueprint introduces something called olfactory digestion. Like, digestion doesn't start in the stomach, it starts in the nose.
It's incredible.
Dr. Sachin Patel and Michael Feldstein have this practice where you slowly smell your food, taking these deep inhales until your mouth physically pools with saliva, and you do not take a single bite until that happens.
The biology behind that is elegantly simple. When you smell the complex aromas of real food, your olfactory receptors send a signal to the brain, which then sends a vagus nerve signal all the way down to your gut.
It's like sending the menu to the kitchen before you even order. Smelling the food tells the chef, your gut, exactly which pans to heat up and which specific enzymes to prep before the food ever hits the table.
That is a brilliant analogy. The gut prepares a customized enzymatic cocktail perfectly tailored to break down the exact macronutrients sitting on your plate.
But the modern world has introduced a massive disruption to this process, hasn't it? Synthetic fragrances.
Oh, it's a huge problem.
The blueprint is incredibly strict about avoiding them. I look at the $7 billion synthetic fragrance industry, the plug-in wall warmers, the heavy perfumes, the scented laundry detergents. It's basically like secondhand smoke for the gut.
Yeah, because they completely hijack the olfactory receptors. Those synthetic molecules bind to the receptors in your nose and just overpower them.
So the signal gets blocked.
Right.
Right.
The brain never gets the clear signal of the food you're about to eat, so the gut never gets the memo to produce the digestive enzymes.
So you're swallowing food into an unprepared stomach. Michael Feldstein actually calls his pre-meal breathing a salivation prayer. He used this exact practice to heal his own chronic gut issues. It is so critical to his health that he literally hands out natural deodorant to strangers he interacts with because their synthetic colognes are physically disrupting his digestion.
Wow, that's commitment. But it makes sense. When food sits in an unprepared stomach, it ferments rather than digests, and that leads to dysbiosis and imbalance of the good and bad bacteria in your microbiome, which causes chronic systemic inflammation.
So we fix the chemical signaling of digestion, but the blueprint also looks at the physical structures inside our plumbing.
This raises an important question, right? Why are our modern bodies missing these key structural components?
Yes, specifically using hyaluronic acid to rebuild our arteries and joints.
Well, it highlights a fundamental deficiency in the modern diet, because historically, human diets included organ meats, broths, and animal skin tissues that are rich in these specific structural fibers.
And now we just eat chicken breasts.
Exactly. Today, we eat almost exclusively muscle meat, so our bodies lack the raw materials to repair our own structural linings.
Dr. William Davis uncovered just how crucial this is almost by accident. He was formulating an oral hyaluronic acid protocol aimed at improving skin thickness and reducing wrinkles for his female patients. But they tracked the results using high-resolution ultrasounds, and they found it wasn't just plumping the skin dermis, it was systematically rebuilding the glycocalyx.
The glycocalyx is arguably one of the most important yet least discussed structures in the cardiovascular system.
I always picture the inside of an artery like a smooth PVC pipe, but the sources describe the glycocalyx as a microscopic shag carpet lining the inside of your blood vessels.
Yes, millions of tiny finger-like projections. And those projections sense the blood flow and control your arterial tone, how much the blood vessels dilate or constrict.
Oh, wow.
Crucially, that shag carpet acts as a physical barrier that prevents cholesterol and inflammatory markers from embedding into the arterial wall.
It repels the plaque. So by supplementing oral hyaluronic acid, Dr. Davis's patients weren't just getting thicker skin, they were rebuilding that internal protective lining.
Yeah.
They saw reduced waist circumferences and a restoration of the synovial fluid that cushions their joints.
It literally provides your body with the exact raw materials it needs to recarpet the arteries and grease the structural hinges.
And rebuilding that internal stability naturally leads us to how we physically hold ourselves up in the world.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to that wild statistic I mentioned at the start of the deep dive. The strength of your big toe.
It sounds like a party trick, but the biomechanics are deadly serious.
The source material details Ben Greenfield's barefoot training protocols. He does overhead presses and bicep curls while balancing barefoot on one leg, specifically to force his big toe to contract and stabilize his entire body weight.
That takes insane balance.
Right. So what does this all mean for the listener who just wears regular sneakers all day? Why does the toe matter?
Because of a muscle called the flexor hallucis longus.
The flexor.
Yeah.
Hallucis.
Longus, yeah. It runs from your calf down into your big toe. It is responsible for maintaining the arch of your foot and handling the massive force distribution every time you take a step. When you lock your feet in rigid, narrow shoes all day, that muscle completely atrophies.
And when the toe weakens, the force has to go somewhere else.
Exactly. The plantar fascia takes the load, causing severe inflammation, knee pain, and hip misalignment. But the real danger emerges as we age.
The fall risk.
Right. Clinical studies published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research demonstrated that big toe strength is the single greatest predictor of a person's risk of falling in older adulthood. It is a more accurate predictor than core strength or overall muscle mass.
And the stakes of a fall are life and death.
Absolutely. When older adults fall, they frequently suffer hip fractures, and a hip fracture in a senior citizen carries a devastating 50% mortality rate within the following 12 months.
50%. Half of the people who fracture a hip from a fall die within a year, all from a loss of biomechanical balance that originates in a weak big toe. That is chilling.
It really puts it in perspective.
But the interventions are so simple. Barefoot training, practicing foot doming, where you just pull the ball of your foot toward your heel to create an arch while you're standing at the kitchen counter, or even just picking up marbles with your toes while watching TV.
It is the ultimate preventative microhabit. You are reinforcing the foundation of your physical autonomy.
Which brings us to the final piece of the longevity blueprint. We've optimized sleep, metabolism, digestion, and physical structure. But none of it holds together without addressing the stress that threatens to tear the system apart. The sources dive deeply into Raja Yoga meditation, specifically its impact on coronary artery disease.
We tend to view stress as an emotional issue, but the blueprint demands we view it as a severe physiological state.
Dr. Asim Malhotra, a highly respected evidence-based cardiologist, was a massive skeptic of the physical benefits of meditation. He thought it was just like a nice way to relax. But he traveled to India to review a 20-year study of a healthy lifestyle program, and he actually reviewed the patient angiograms with his own eyes.
And what the data revealed upended his entire understanding of cardiology.
Yeah.
They tracked patients doing standard interventions, high-fiber diets, moderate walking. Those habits could stabilize heart disease, meaning it didn't get worse. But there was only one independent factor that actually caused the regression and reversal of coronary blockages.
The meditation.
40 minutes of daily Raja Yoga meditation.
He saw angiograms where a major artery was 100% occluded, like completely blocked, no blood flowing, and it opened back up. Patients with 70% blockages saw them melt down to 30%. I need to understand the mechanism here. How does sitting quietly with your eyes closed physically scrub plaque out of an artery?
It all comes down to cortisol and macrophages.
Right.
Chronic stress keeps your body in a constant fight-or-flight state, pumping out cortisol and driving systemic inflammation. When your arteries are inflamed, your immune system sends white blood cells called macrophages to heal the damage.
Right. The body's first responders.
Exactly. But because the inflammation is chronic, the macrophages get stuck in the arterial wall, they gorge on cholesterol and turn into what we call foam cells.
So the immune response actually creates a traffic jam.
Hmm?
And that traffic jam is the plaque.
Yes. But when you engage in deep, sustained meditation, you completely dial down the sympathetic nervous system. You turn off the fight-or-flight alarm.
The cortisol drops.
The cortisol drops, the arterial inflammation subsides, and the body's natural clearing mechanisms can finally step in, break up the foam cells, and literally sweep the arteries clean.
By changing your mind, you are chemically disarming the traffic jam in your heart. It's just breathtaking. We have covered an immense amount of ground today. The longevity blueprint is proof that aging well isn't just about running on a treadmill until your knees give out. It is a highly interconnected web. It is front-loading your macros so your brain isn't buffering through the night. It is banishing the smartphone to eliminate subconscious vigilance.
It's cycling your calories and leveraging the thermic effect of protein to keep your metabolic furnace hot. It's eating a massive volume of vegetables to literally rewrite your epigenetic software.
It's remembering to smell your food and ditching those synthetic fragrances so your gut can prep the kitchen. It's using hyaluronic acid to recarpet your arteries. It's strengthening your big toe to physically anchor yourself to the ground. And it's using deep mindfulness to melt the plaque out of your heart.
It's a complete paradigm shift.
So the challenge for you, if you're listening to this on a commute or making breakfast, is to look at this web and pick just one thread to pull today. You don't have to overhaul your whole life by tomorrow. Maybe it just starts with spending $12 on a digital alarm clock.
To leave you with one final thought to mull over, we explored how synthetic fragrances disrupt our physical digestion by overpowering our olfactory receptors, basically tricking the body and stopping a natural biological process. We also saw how the subconscious vigilance created by smartphones in the bedroom ruins our restorative sleep.
Right.
It makes you wonder, could the constant artificial onslaught of digital stimuli we consume all day be acting as a kind of synthetic fragrance for the mind? Is the endless scrolling hijacking our cognitive receptors and completely blocking our ability to truly digest, process, and absorb the actual physical lives happening right in front of us?